fuck up. It's time to talk business. Jared Taylor, Matt Best, and Evan Hafer proudly present Blackhearted. Sponsored by BlackRifle Coffee Company and Arson Wave.
Oh! Whoa!
Shit.
I had to just throw a bucket of water over me after the tank machine episode.
No. He got me hot,
Yeah.
business hot.
I was business hot. I was man
business
hot.
hot.
I was hot in my man parts.
I was ready to join the Marine Corps
We did join
or
the
his
Marine
private
Corps.
army, the
Like,
tank private army.
Whatever he put in front of us, we were ready to sign.
Fucking doesn't matter. I think we actually signed over half of BlackRifle coffee today. I don't know, but I think that's it. I think that happened.
Well, we have a special guest, another special guest, a long line of special guests. One of our business partners
God,
that people
Rich.
don't know.
Special.
Yeah. I'll do a little bit of an intro here.
Yeah, good.
I'll do that.
You do that.
All right, so Richard Ryan, for those of you that do not know Richard Ryan, I'm going to allow him to do his bio, but I'm going to tell you what I know about Richard Ryan. So Richard Ryan is one of the most impressive intellects we've actually been able to cross paths with in the last decade. So he knows more about everything. I have no fucking clue. Rich will pull some shit out of his ass. Like, no, I worked as a NASA scientist for 4 years back in the day, and this is rocket propulsion. Yeah, rocket propulsion.
This is basic.
Oh,
rocket
this
propulsion.
is just solid
Here's
state.
the formula.
Yeah, this is solid
You want to
state
talk
propulsion
about
right here. Don't worry about
heat
that.
transferring through energy.
Yeah. Don't worry about this. Yeah. Oh, I know. I've got a PhD in thermodynamics. Don't worry about that.
Thermodynamics.
Yeah. I mean, I took that test. I didn't actually go to college for it, but yeah. I mean, I guess you could say I'm a
passed.
certified
I
thermodynamics
passed the
expert.
bar and I passed the MCATs just because I was fucking bored.
I was fucking bored. I was
was a
16.
Tuesday.
I was 16. I didn't have any. I graduated high school at 4, and I just was fucking hanging out, So he is a consummate entrepreneur.
Does that mean he can't poop?
Yeah, exactly.
Consummate?
I love having great conversations with Rich Ryan. So without further ado, please, Richard, introduce yourself, and then let's go into a little bit of your history.
Yeah, well, we'll keep that as short as possible then. Man, I don't even know where to begin. Let's just say what I'm doing right now. I'm business partners with you guys.
Yep.
And living the dream. Executive producer at Verizon Hearst Media, which is now Complex Networks. And we have what am I doing?
Grab the mic,
Get
grab
it
the mic,
closer.
angle it up.
God
There you
dang.
go.
Ah, there you go.
Holy shit.
Now I'm getting some registration.
You want me to
from
put
it.
my tongue on this?
Do it.
Yeah, we just
Do it.
do that.
Jesus Christ.
These aren't condensers, Rich. We're not rich.
Oh, well, I guess I could have brought those. Let me tell you about this one time.
Let me tell you about the time I worked on condensers.
Oh, yeah. No, this is sexy. No, so right now, executive producer over at Rated Red for Complex Networks. Run a few YouTube channels of my own, Full Mag, Guns, and Wingsuit Pilot, and all this other good stuff. Background in marketing, analytics, programming. Had a few software companies when Apple came out with their SDK or the iPhone, the first gen. I started a software company and started programming because I wanted to be a little disruptive in that world because I saw the future and what I wanted as a consumer. And that's really what drives me more than anything. And I think that's where I find a lot of my success, maybe not financially, but far as happiness is concerned. A lot of people, they'll say, dude, like, why are you on cocaine? You're just like so happy to be up in the fucking morning. It's like, no, I really enjoy doing what I do. And, it started back then, I was frustrated in the traditional media world, I guess you could say, auditioning, having to ask people for permission to do what it is that you want to do to either be creative or whatever. So I started experimenting with stuff on my own, started editing and programming and all this other stuff. But it's kind of led me through these weird channels and relationships where I worked with YouTube, consulting with them on the product team, far as analytics and stuff along those lines. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. That developed relationships with a lot of the studios early on when YouTube and a lot of the digital platforms were just kind of figuring out their analytics and stuff along those lines. They wanted to see what their ROIs were for their spends as far as these big budgets. You have a $100 million budget on a movie and then you spend $10 million on marketing, but you don't know how effective that is. So in tracking a lot of that stuff in different ways through Google, Facebook, and stuff along those lines. And I'm actually super impressed with you, Evan. Like the Facebook thing, I've kind of neglected over the years because the analytics is there, but the monetization, the traditional monetization method that guys look for, like, oh, YouTube, I can get Google AdSense on this. I can get 10 million views on this. And I can make $1,000. This is great. And, just jumping straight out of the background thing, and where, this conversation actually might be beneficial towards those guys trying to get into the world of whatever it is that they're wanting to do. I mean, we touch so many different things, from coffee to wingsuit and stuff along those lines. And it's really like one of those challenges for me where I see the effect that the action cam has had on every industry, right? Everybody's a professional wingsuit pilot now. Everybody wants to be first at something. They want to set this new record. I'm the first person to jump off of a balloon with a tuba or something like that, and it's like, and then they do it for free.
First person to have a hot air balloon hot tub.
Yeah, that's us.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going out and having a good time. And in some ways, I'm a hypocrite in that sense. But it's ultimately trying to find ways for people to be able to make a living at this, right? So it's, how do you make that transition from doing something that you're passionate about to actually monetizing off of it in a way that makes sense, where you can become somewhat successful or sustain a living. And traditionally, people would say, "Hey, look, Google, they have the partner program now, and I can monetize off of these videos and stuff, and that's great." Now everybody's kind of caught on to that. They're like, "Oh, I got a YouTube channel too. I'm a professional wingsuit pilot, or I'm this, or I'm how many gun channels were there 10 years ago? Not many. There weren't that many people. Now there's every angle.
Everybody reviews.
Yeah, everybody. And it's kind of fascinating to me too, because I don't want to say that we've peaked, but I have seen a trend, especially this year at SHOT Show. In the past 2-3 years, there was traditionally a lot more people covering the show, and I personally saw that there wasn't that significant of a return on investment to come out here, pay for guys to stay in hotels, to shoot and edit and everything else. It's like, where are you making your money off of? There's 15, 20 people covering this one gun in an hour, right? So it's like, the saturation point of blogs and everyone else is like, everybody's kind of figuring out that there's a dilution going on there. So they're like, well, maybe I can't justify the cost of going out there. And that's where you guys really have to applaud you guys, and Article 15, us at BlackRifle Coffee and everything else. It's figuring out these monetization strategies that are outside of the box.
Right.
And the thing that is just so fucking insanely awesome to me is to see like Art 15 and how that's thrived in such a competitive industry, mixing that with like personalities with you and Matt and Rocco and everybody.
Because it was extremely competitive.
Yeah,
you had tons of people.
Yeah.
Well, so I think one of the things that I'd really like to hear, because I think the listeners would really like to hear it, is your journey. So your journey is fascinating to me, because you started early. Like, you started with a dream and an idea, but you have such a unconventional path that I find excruciatingly interesting. So just start us off at 18 and then take us through till now. Give me the Reader's Digest, because it's fucking cool, man.
Yeah,
like,
people are like,
anything you want to do, you can set your mind to it and do it.
Yeah. We got 30 minutes. I'll try to just distill it down.
Distill it.
So I mean, I thought the path for me was the entertainment industry.
Right.
I loved comedy. I had enough credits to graduate early on in high school.
4 years old.
Yeah. So I was fortunate. I was fortunate enough to let my teachers were really cool. They were like, "Hey, we'll create some classes for you, and you can still play sports. You finish your senior year out here and everything." Like, I had intro to teaching, and my teacher, she let me take a high 8 camera, and at the time Final Cut 1 just came out. It was like $25,000, so I had to drive from our school to the Walker County Science and Technology Center, where they had a G4 computer, and I taught myself how to edit on Final Cut 1, and it was a blast. And I'd drive to Atlanta every Monday for acting coaching and all this other stuff. And I just, this is so weird to talk about. So I would jump from job to job, and in that process, I managed a motorcycle delership when I was racing. I started my own outdoor like supercross, motocross track, and got into that world for a few years and everything. And then finally, when my friend sold that dealership, I packed up my truck, and this was before Craigslist really for me. So I flew out to LA, and I was looking for a place to stay, and everyone was like, well, when are you looking to move out? In like 3 months? And they're like, well, we'll have this fucking place rented next week. So I didn't have any place to stay or anything, so I just loaded up my truck, and I drove out and did kind of a little scenic tour, went to Tombstone and Roswell, a bunch of places I said I'd never probably visit ever again. And I got to LA and just found a place to stay in Burbank, and I did stand-up for a long time. That was kind of like my passion, like, because when you would audition for roles in movies and stuff like that wasn't gratifying to me. You're constantly asking for permission from somebody to be able to do something that you think that you want to do. And I found stand-up was extremely rewarding. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was painful in the beginning, but sketch comedy and all that other stuff was just, I fucking loved it. I was able to, like, I remember plain as day, like the moment I was like, this is the shit that I want to do, was when Reebok, this is before YouTube, so this is probably 2003, 2004. Reebok came out with the Office Linebacker series.
Terry Tate.
Yeah. Terry Tate.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, these commercials are awesome.
Yeah.
They're so good. It's like, this is how I want to vent creatively. I don't care if I get paid to do it. I just want to do it. And so that's the route I went. And as far as the entertainment side of stuff, I ended up meeting up with Mike Gallagher from Totally Sketch, and he cast me as one of the regular cast members on that digital comedy group, and did really well. Got in the top 100 YouTube channels and everything. And at the time, I was still, YouTube really wasn't able to make a living and everything, so I was juggling a bunch of jobs. I had I was bartending by the Staples Center, and I had this degenerate gambler come in a lot, and I was really good at picking college football, and I was like, hey, he was like, well, I need a lock this week. And I know he was betting a lot on it, tens of thousands easy. Right. And he's like, hey, I need to know what game would be a lock for me this week. I was like, well, if you end up getting this, I want you to hire me on. If you like the way I work for a week, hire me on full time. If you don't, then I'll work that week for free. Ended up getting that game. I picked Florida over Tennessee. At the time, I was a Tennessee fan, and it was good. It was good. It was a prevailing wage job, so the cheapest you can pay somebody to push a broom on the job site was $37 an hour, plus overtime and everything. So within a few months, I was like the labor foreman, and started saving up money for production equipment and everything. I worked several other jobs at the time, so I'd work construction from 5:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon, go home, take a shower. I'd go to the bar, and I'd bartend from 4:30 to about 10. On the weekends, I had my own little landscaping business, the guy I rented my house from. I just started programming. I mean, at no point in my life have I worked less than 3 jobs at a time. Right. So always juggling stuff. But it ended up getting to that point where I was like, okay, YouTube, this is the direction. This is now just trying to figure out ways to, how is this going to be sustainable 10 years from now? What's the progression going to be? And I started geeking out on the analytics and the programming side of everything. So when I created what is now Full Mag, it was completely based off of ways to monetize, right? So the breakdown, taking elements of movies and video games, recreating them in real life, because I know that studios and video game companies have really big disposable marketing budgets.
Well, jump back, the discovery of YouTube was fucking super cool with you.
Yeah.
Because you responded to an ad.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's funny because Mike was he's so funny. He's like, why do you always put it like that? So it's Craigslist, like Craigslist,
Right.
LA Casting, and Now Casting were like the three big ways for stuff. And I told myself, I was like, hey, look, me talking to myself, like, do you really want to do this? Is this something that you really like? If you're really passionate about something, you got to find a way to do it, even if you're not being paid to a degree, and that's where I become a hypocrite to some extent. But it's not rewarding to audition for 5 years and never get a chance to vent creatively.
Right.
And so I was like, if there's something in the breakdowns that I fit, either way, I'm gonna go audition for it. I'm gonna meet some people. I'm gonna have a good time. I'm gonna put my best foot forward and see what the universe has to offer. Right. I'm not gonna get in my way. So. The fucking ad was so sketchy. It was like the breakdown was like, this dude is like filming his girlfriend on his birthday, trying to get her to kiss this other chick. I was like, it's like a porn. No, it's comedy. It's comedy, and it was like one of the first episodes of Totally Sketch and everything, and it was just a lot of fun. I went in there and improvised a few different scenes and stuff for Mike and everything, and I love sketch comedy and just had a blast. And it was weird, man. It was like the gratification that came from that, and just sucking it up and saying, all right, you know what, I don't necessarily, even though, man, there were times where I was counting my change. Like I was like, a lot of people have it way worse off.
Yeah.
You know, Baker's kind of funny because he gives me a hard time about how frugal I am financially at times. But I mean, I was like one paycheck away from like sleeping in my truck and just not knowing where I could go.
Right.
Whenever I go do my sets at the Comedy Store, I would park on La Cienega, and I'd walk like 1.5 miles. So whenever it was raining and stuff, I'd be counting my change because there was no parking meters down there. And so I called it the walk of shame. I walk up all the way up the hill to Sunset and everything to do my sets and stuff. And it was that's the stuff that kind of like gives you color growing up and stuff. So I wouldn't trade it for the
How
world.
was your stand-up received?
You know, it's funny. You can like
Because we've never got to see it.
Oh, dude, I checked that fucking ego at the door, man. There was
Just saying, we've never got to see that side of you.
Yeah. There's different iterations in people's careers, right? And it was very amateur in that sense, where you're young, you don't have a whole lot of life experiences, right? So, yeah, it was something. I have 2 like digital voice recorders. Cell phones would be fucking amazing back then. They probably would have ruined my life, but I would record like my sets and stuff like that. And I was hoping I had copies of them so I could fucking humble myself with it. But yeah, it was something. It was
You
something.
need to dig that up. I got to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things I really appreciate about Rich is his story is about, like, from my perspective, it's hard work. When you really look at it, it's like, you know, what makes Rich a success? It's like, defining success. What does that mean for you, right? So just coming up with that definition and then moving towards it. That target might change. You know, it actually might change a couple times or several times, but ultimately not letting anything come between you and what you've defined as your goal. And I think a lot of military guys can respect that because they're very mission focused. They can take a look at something and say, okay, I'm going to move to, you know, this phase line and I need to be here. So you can look at the context of an entire operation and you can say, phase lines, this is where I need to be at this time, and here, and here. What I really like about Rich is his story is not, it's a non-traditional story in the sense of, like, okay, you might be swinging
He was
fucking
shotgunning it. Like,
it was fucking
he's
great,
everywhere.
man.
Harley, what didn't he do?
Yeah,
He had a landscaping business. He had a motocross track.
Well,
What the fuck?
the point of his startup is to find a monetization strategy that works and to fucking run with it. And you might have to launch a few canoes along the way. And I'm not trying to distill your entire life story down to a few things. The things that I really like about Rich is, like, one day you'll have a conversation with him about analytics that you'll truly not understand. And then he'll be like, you know, he was taking his office, and he was rebuilding his office. So he's like using a table saw, and like he's like, oh, and then I got this knife that I'm gonna heat up to 15,000 degrees, and then cut a fucking Glock open with it, and then it doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop. There's no point in time where like you can pin Rich down and go, who do you work for today, right now? What fucking hat are you wearing? And it's so ingrained in your DNA to just have a million different things that you're doing, and you're doing well, and they always seemed like very in concert and synced. Just before the podcast, he was busting our balls actually, because we were actually going to punt on this for a couple of days. He was like, "Oh, fuck me if I like to, fuck you if I like to run my life by a schedule, you fucking assholes." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, you got us."
He got right in my face. He said, "You're a fucking prick.
Yeah.
You don't stick to a schedule.
Yep.
You're possibly gay too, and you're always eating."
Yeah.
He said a ton of hateful things in
He
a
said
matter of 20
super
seconds.
hateful things.
Yeah.
Such a dick.
He is mean.
He's
But
mean.
I remember when I went out and stayed at your house out in Simi?
Yes.
We
that
went
a
to the
real
grocery
story?
store.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we went in the hot tub. I always end up in a hot tub.
Dude, it's
Of
so
course
weird.
you do.
Like,
Super weird.
like my memory is just getting smoked with the amount of stuff going on in the world and everything. But I forgot that my first interaction with you was here at SHOT Show.
Was.
What?
5 years ago.
5 years ago, you were my sound guy.
Seriously?
Yes.
That's fucking.
JT,
I was a boom operator.
how I forgot how did you even I forgot.
I don't even know this story. So
I was operating a boom.
For who?
For Richard Ryan.
how did that come about?
Paulo contracted me
Oh.
through you.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Jesus.
Paulo got me to volunteer for it because he said there was no budget. Then I found out he was getting money.
of course, this is the way it goes.
Oh, that's great. No, man, it's great. I love seeing the paths that everyone takes, and I don't know for better or worse. Like I'm pretty much emotionally invested.
Holding a boom for
Yeah.
Richard Ryan.
Yeah.
And now look at us.
Now.
right?
I mean, I'd still hold a boom for him.
Hey,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Or bust your balls in the kitchen about punting. God damn it.
I would hold a boom, push a broom. It doesn't matter. I think that that the cool thing about having these guys as partners in business is there's like this shared sense of we all have
checks
to be
and balances.
we all have to be working all the fuck. Like when I say that, it's like if you look around and somebody is working and you're not, you feel like a fucking shitbag. So you better find something to do. Like, hey guys, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just on my way to clean the toilets, but at the same time, I'm just optimizing a few marketing
It
pieces
goes
here.
back to
And
pushing
then
that
I'm just
cart.
like,
It's pushing the cart. If
Yeah.
someone's pushing the cart, you're just standing there watching. Like you're like, fuck, I should probably push that cart too.
no.
Yeah, but you know what's crazy though is I'll get guys they'll talk to me like a good example is like Rated Red. We have an entryway going into the studios and everything. I cut all the reclaimed wood and did the tiling and everything on the entryway. Worked till like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, setting that stuff up, building like an Edison light fixture and everything, so it's like nice and everything. And everybody's like, "Why the fuck do you do this stuff?" It's like, well, I like being emotionally invested in a lot of this stuff, but I just like I really admire you guys and not getting in a circle jerk here or anything like that. But for somebody like me who's single and I have the ability to be obsessive compulsive and dive into something, there's really no risk outside of my sanity that I get to throw on the table. You guys have families, so you're talking about like seeing somebody else working and stuff like that. You guys got fucking kids and stuff.
Jared
like that.
has lizards that live in his house.
Lizards.
That he throws lettuce at every now and again.
So how do you manage that? Because for me that's
I don't.
It's hard. I've really tried to get a lot better about scheduling, like just scheduling and then running to a schedule, and then Tank touched on it, is just like maintaining your word, especially with your family, right? Because if you degrade your word with your family, it causes other issues. But that's the same in any relationship.
Yeah.
Like when you can't be counted on, things start to go sideways. So, with my wife, she understands it's a hard process. I think it's not as hard on my wife as it is probably on my daughter at times. She's like, well, why haven't you been home for 3 days? And it's like, well, I have. I leave before you get up, and I get home after you go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm gone, but I'm here. And I think that, that this organization. So when we talk about just like, you know, Rich in the context of your story, you know, our history together, this fact that, you know, everything that you do, one, I see you just like do very well. Like just like it's super organized. It's actually it's almost embarrassing sometimes. Like, God, I wish I was squared away as we're trying. But, you know, you're very organized and not to the point where it inhibits you, right? So some people are like, well, I'm so fucking organized, I can't get anything done. Where it's like, no, this just helps me get everything done because everything's in its right place and I don't have to look for it. Rich lived in my house for like 2 or 3 weeks. I shouldn't say he stayed with me for a few weeks. So, you know, we've definitely had like a relationship.
We've lived in the basement together at Jay's.
And it's like it's such a cool experience from BlackRifle because we see these entrepreneurs. I see entrepreneurs every day coming through the office of BlackRifle, and you really get to frame a context around this relationship with success. Mm-hmm. Like you really do, because you say, okay, well, what makes people successful? What is it? And I always tell people, I'm like, man, from what I understand, like Jay Orvis is a really good example. You know, he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but Jay is one of the hardest working men I've ever been around. Yeah. Like he's extremely introspective and he's very hard. Like he's hard on himself, but at the same time he lives his life without fear, right? So it's like, don't live with any fear, you know, chase your passions and work your fucking ass off. And you're going to get pretty fucking far, actually. You're going to get
yourself with experts.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I could say about Hollywood, that if there was anything I took away from it is how fucking lazy people are.
God.
And like, it blows my mind. And that you go back to organization and stuff like that. I don't even like, I really admire that about what you say about your family and keeping your word and everything, because that's honestly, that's all it is for work for me. Mm. Like, half of the time it's all about execution, right? A good example is, Baker again with Killcliff. He's like, hey, I'd like to introduce you to Erin Lavoie. She's a Lumberjill champ. We potentially like to do whatever, do a piece. I saw this axe throwing thing that you guys did. It's like, well, yeah, we could do something. We can go film a live event and everything. Whenever I talk about doing something, like I'll let you know whether or not we're brainstorming or if I'm wanting to execute on something. If I say I want to execute on it, I expect us to execute on it. Otherwise, very much like your family relationship, I don't have that wife and kids relationship, so I treat my business relationships like that. So it's like, if I tell you I'm going to do it, we did, and we fucking killed it, man. Like we went and we got numbers that rivaled that at ESPN and the Timber Sports series for steel, and all that from just a casual conversation where he's like, hey, you want to do this? It's like, that's what, if there's anything that people can take away from conversations for me, is if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to fucking do it.
Yeah.
And hell or high water, we'll figure out a way. And, that's it at the end of the day. And, I don't know, this whole process has just been, it's been interesting.
Yeah. And the funny thing is you can't even scratch the surface on the amount of work that is real. And when we talk about Rich and the story of Full Mag, and I've known Rich for how long? 2 years, 3 years, 3 years now since JT introduced us. Yeah. And every time I'm around him, I learn something new about Rich. Like I had no idea that fucking race track, and that like every time I'm around him, I'm like, God, dude, what else do you do, man? Like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I started YouTube. This is just like a fun time for me, And I really just, I can't emphasize enough. Like, if you haven't seen Rich's content, like he's got some incredible content out there. And I look at it, and I look at content, all the time. So I look at JT's content, I looked at Art 15's content, your content, everybody's content, and there's such a wide variety of things that you can consume in the media, whether that's written or video or still, whatever that is. You really have to go to the places and truly try to emulate a lot of the guys that are doing it well. And fuck, Rich, you've been doing it well for a long time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But the funny thing is that, like, I am most definitely a hypocrite, because if you go to my Instagram, you go to my Facebook and all this other stuff, I've fucking tooth and nail resisted it forever. Like I can't take selfies. I can't stick to a schedule on that stuff. Now I can, when it comes to running brands and brand development and stuff along those lines, it's super easy for me. I understand that stuff, but it's weird because again, I go back to being a consumer. I enjoy seeing what it is other people do. I like to consume content, but the narcissism that surrounds the social media world is just, it's hard for me to embrace that personally. That's why I try to hide behind my iPro big hats and fucking a wolf logo and stuff along those lines. Because like,
I love it.
It makes it makes it easier for me to put content up like that. Because it's like, who the fuck am I? I don't know. Maybe some weird way I'm working through some psychological process where I don't feel like I deserve it or something along those lines. I don't know. But
I don't know. I mean, who cares? It's good content, and I mean, who cares if you
fucking shoot
IG
iPhones
page?
and jump out of airplanes?
fucking
It's
fun.
not rocket
It's amazing.
science. But
It's
the funny
amazing.
thing is
Well, he's also an explosive expert, but
it's extremely it's an extremely expensive case
Professional
study.
typist.
That's what I'll tell people is like full mag is at no point have I ever really like embraced it like a business. Like it's been an experiment the entire time.
Right.
Because if I was doing it as a business, it would have been something along the lines of, the tech destruction channels, only that. And I could have went hard in the paint and been extremely successful at it. Could have been just slow-mo stuff, been extremely successful at it. But no, I have to keep my sanity and experiment with different things, figure out how an algorithm's working and stuff along those lines. So I don't know. It's just one of those things.
Just
Wow,
one of those things.
that was that is it, huh?
Man, this is like part one of Rich Ryan.
Well, I
We're
mean,
gonna
I know,
have to do a
he's-
4-part series.
God
with
damn
Rich.
it! I feel like we didn't I was like, I feel
This
like
is-
we should come to some kind of resolution or like a
I
strategy
think
for
we
everybody.
should. I think what it should be is I think Rich Ryan should say, Rich, give me your three keys to success. The Rich Ryan 3 keys to success. We can take the time that you want, man. What's been your guiding principle here? Just throw
Not
them
all
out.
at once.
Not all at once, Rich.
God, I feel like
Not in
it.
German, please.
No.
I would say inspiration, execution, and perseverance.
Yeah. I'm 110% on board with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
inspiration is a big one. Like, 'cause
Yeah.
if you're not motivated behind it, it's not going to happen.
it's not going to happen. So if you're gonna tell everybody those 3 things, and just tell them like, what is it? Put it in context for us. How did you learn those pieces?
Yeah. It's weird. Like, I grew up on a farm, and I remember like some of the hardest days. Like my mom and stepdad, everybody probably.
So we went from owning a motocross track. Now we grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
like
Now he's farming.
yeah, fucking in the South, dude, driving a tractor. Like I was like fucking putting chemicals, like driving a stick shift truck through the orange groves in Florida. Fucking like 9 years old with pesticide booms and stuff like that. But one of the hardest days ever. Like I was digging. We didn't have like post hole machines. I dig posts by hand with post hole diggers, and it was probably fucking 105 degrees outside in Georgia, and I fucking hated it. And I look back on some of that stuff, and I really miss some of that manual labor, like baling hay, running a bush hog, and digging post holes and stuff along those lines. And it's finding that stuff. You might not like it then, it's just grinding through it, and who knows where it's going to be later on down the road. But I look for that stuff now. I look for the stuff that I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I know not everybody can do that. I know not everybody's fortunate enough to be able to wake up every morning and say, this is the fucking job that I'm going to do. You have obligations, you have families, you have responsibilities, you have things along those lines, but you can still be inspired to the point of like, I'm going to work to that point. I'm going to get to that point. And honestly, that kind of, that got me through the grind a lot of the time. And it's not delusional. It's just, I know I'm working towards something, and it felt really good at the end of the day. I slept fucking awesome. Like I would crash out and fucking, I had no trouble sleeping.
Crash out with a box fan.
That's it.
Yeah. The best, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's really it. I mean, the appreciating the grind
Yeah.
I mean, and it's so cliche.
Respecting it.
Yeah, like people say it's a pursuit, not the destination. Like, fuck you. Do you really understand what that means? But no, like some of the best times I've had, I was the most miserable, and that fucking coffee, that salmon, that deer, whatever it was afterwards was just so fucking tasty. like so tasty, like nothing on it but just salt and pepper, and it was so fucking good because of the misery that went in before it. And I don't know if it, like, I'm always searching for that yin and yang, and I think that both of them make each of them so much better. Where if I was just handed a bunch of money and I was just loaded rich and just like on an even playing field my entire life, I wouldn't enjoy it nearly as much.
No.
So.
Love it.
Well,
Yeah.
that
Part one.
sums us up. That's part one.
Part
We're actually
one
a little bit over.
of 16.
I love it.
Part one of 16.
Part 1 of 16 and Rich Ryan. So,
Well, hey, we thank you for this one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
You
I
didn't
feel like
need
a
to-
tool.
you
I
didn't-
didn't.
you
I've
didn't
never.
have to-
I've never listened to the intro. That fucking intro is awesome.
Oh,
It's
thank
great,
you.
right?
That's by a band out in Pensacola called Arson Wave. They made that for us.
Oh, that's awesome.
Coming out with a new album the end of this month.
That's awesome.
You didn't have to insult my weight to get this
Yeah.
going. I don't know why we went there.
I did not.
But
I did
strictly
not.
remember
Wait.
you insulted my eating habits and my weight.
Yep.
I did not actually.
Yeah.
It's like
I heard him.
what,
But we thank you for coming.
thank you.
And we
Thank you
love
very much, Rich.
And we'll see more of you all the time.
Thank you.
Black Rifle Coffee Company, along with Arson Wave, would like to thank you for tuning in to Blackhearted. Have a great fucking day.